Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, when we returned, we came back because the mayor said that if you live in one of these zip codes, you can come back. So we did, so we came back. We got stopped coming in. Once we arrived to the apartments, we was harassed and they took my uncle to jail. For no reason. They just took him to jail because and I had to prove that I was the owner of the apartment because a person looked like me, they did not believe that I owned a big apartment complex, you see. So they harassed us, and then finally I got in touch with the mayor. I called the mayor about my uncle. So so the mayor told us where we could go to get him. We went down, they had turned our bus station into a jail holding cell. So we went over there and we walked up to the building, had big old signs on the wall that said we were taking our city back. I didn't understand that. And then they were sitting there with machine guns, and they marched us up to the front of in the middle of the bus station. So we talked to the officer about my uncle. He said that they had shipped him to Baton Rouge. So finally, I got back on the phone. I called the mayor, tried to reach the governor and all of them to tell them what was going on. So we made so many complaints until one day they kept him but a month. Hadn't charged him with anything. Then when they let him go, they said they gave him a bus ticket and ID and sent him back to Tennessee. We're not allowed him to come back into New York. Sent him back to Tennessee. You know? So it was a real push to get poor people out of the city, even if you have to kill so many of them. And they did. And doing my walking on the bridge and looking around and looking for family members and all that, bodies floating, you know. And then there was old people on mattresses, in garbage can tops and garbage cans, you know, anything that would float. Poor people was in them, you know, and trying to survive. And right outside the projects, on the side of the bridges, it was like black people running from Africa, trying to escape. Everywhere you look, it's just poor black people just trying to swim, just walking and holding on. I mean, it was awful. I had never seen a scene like that before, and hope that I never see it again. You know, for a whole year, it was like thinking about it, and whenever I talked about it, I just couldn't stop crying. You know, and and there was no help for us. There was no therapy. There was none of that for us, and we all need to have that. So what happened is that Kimberly and Kimberly worked with the Institute, they had the Unitarian came into town, Unitarian Nationalists. They wanted to do volunteer work to help us to rebuild. So they would bring in people from all over, and so they was volunteer. But they came in to volunteer, and we decided that we need to do workshops with them to help them understand the difference between solidarity and charity. You see, because they was coming in with this charity thing, you know, and we were saying, we don't need your, your pity. We need you to understand what happened to us. You know, our rights was violated. We don't need your pity, and so we did the Undoing Racism workshop in a dialogue with them, and it's called Race, Class, and Katrina. And so we are still doing those dialogues. And matter of fact, I'm doing one next Sunday. But it helped me in my healing process because I had the opportunity to confront them, with their racism. And it was a good thing. And believe me, they enjoyed the presentation because they know that they have these privileges the system gives to them. And many of them believe that they got it because they're better. So, and that's one of the things that we do with them. We break down the system to them, show them when laws took place, talk to them about when they became white, there was no such race, and let them know when they became white, who backs they been to do this, and why it happened, and how they're still doing the same thing now. And like what we do, we break them down and say, what race are you? Well, I'm white. No. What race was your mama? Oh, my mom was Italian, my mom was Jewish, my mom was it. Well then, when did you become white? And it helps them to understand that this was a created thing. It's not a natural thing. We was all just one. And then how did it change? What flipped? How did it flip? And this is the only thing that's gonna make us work together. As long as you got all these folks, and I don't care, you can try to put all these different races together, every other race think that they're better than the black race. And they're going to operate that way until they understand different. And as long as we work this little thing with them and go on out, act like everything's okay, we're all equal, when there's a system of laws, and when you break the law, so in order for us to be equal, we have to change laws. And they don't talk about that. So we're not equal, and a lot of times I won't even work with them because I know that it's not equal justice, you know. So in order for us to work together, as I said in that room, we're talking about loving each other and all that. How can you love me when you think you're better? So you got to understand that you know better than me. That's the only way we're going to come together. We all come up with this political stuff, you know, grin each other's face, all this faking and carrying on, you know. It's just all this political stuff. And I know good well this is not to overcome racism. Once we leave that social forum, we are still racist. They are still racist, and the system's still right there that protects them. When they wake up in the morning, they socialize to be white. I wake up in the morning, I'm socialized to be black without any support. And they wake up, don't even have to worry about what the day brings. I got to struggle every day I get out of my bed. So in order for me to feel good about working with everybody, we have to deal with those issues. And I say it everywhere I go, and I tell it to them because it's real. I'm 60 years old, and I've been through this. I came up, my parents were sharecroppers from the Delta. See, and I didn't have the opportunity to go to real school until I was 7 years old. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be in school too, you know, but it was just that racism that goes deep from the Delta all the way up to the White House. You know, and we have to deal with that. And that's what I tell people. I come to these meetings. Okay, I do this, you know, I do that. But I'm still not, you're still not dealing with the racism that caused my problem and my family problem and many of black people problem. I don't know one black person that escaped. Now you may have had the opportunity to go to school and sit next to them, but that still don't change the racism. When you walk out that classroom, you don't have no rights that they have. There's a law in the Constitution that was passed saying there is no rights that a black man has that a white man has to respect. Those things have not been changed. And so how can we move on? You know what I'm saying? We're playing this little role because we can't move on until we deal with those things. And those are things that people don't want to talk about. Poverty, racism. You know, how do we get where we are? What happened to us? Why are we all so separate now? Why can't we come together? We're not going to change nothing global or anything until the issue of racism is dealt with and the system is changed. And I don't see that happening in my time. But God knows, I think it can happen. But if we don't train young people and help them to understand that they don't have privileges, they fake it. And the parents are allowing them to fake, make like they got these privileges. I was talking to one young lady in the classroom the other day. She was saying to me, she's from Memphis, and that's my hometown. And I said, oh, you're from Memphis? She said, yes. And she's Ethiopian. I said, what part of Memphis? She said, East Memphis. I said, East Memphis is not where we live. You know? And she was saying the experience that she had with white kids going to school. They would look at her every day and ask her, what are you? And she said there was never asked of her when she was in Ethiopia. Everybody was the same. That's what Hunter reality check. New world, you know. That's because, first of all, your parents moved to East Memphis because they separated themselves and they wanted to be white. And when you got in the classroom, the white children knew that you wasn't white. And there was a problem for you. But your parents didn't see it because they was able to socialize in the community. Adults that had their education. They didn't have to go to school every day. You see, but that hurt their children. You know, and she was talking about it, you know. I said, wow, I said, you know, that was an experience, but my experience was the same, but but I was not stuck in the white schools, you know. But when I went to school, coming from Mississippi, trying to go to a city school.